Hi, I'm Chef Ange. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my kitchen. On today's episode, I want to show you an American dinner classic. This is my meatloaf recipe. I'm making this video for all the meatloaf haters out there and to improve the reputation of this American dinner classic. I'm not too sure why people don't get excited about meatloaf, but they totally should, especially if they make this recipe. Tender and juicy with a tangy and sweet glaze, this recipe never disappoints. But before I show you this awesome recipe, check out the description box below for the full ingredient list and directions. And while you're down there, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you can find out when I drop new recipe and tip videos every week. Let's get cooking. The key to making an above average meatloaf is to get flavor and moisture into the meat, because those are really the biggest two criticisms of meatloaf, is that it's bland or that it's dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop up an onion, a little red and green bell pepper, and some garlic. And we don't have to chop them up too fine because we're going to add them into a food processor. And then we're going to use the food processor to blend these down until they're cut ultra fine. And I'll keep pulsing this processor until it starts to develop almost a little bit of like a pasty type consistency, but not all the way there. So I'm going to put these in a container because I'm going to bring them over by the stove. We're going to get a pan hot over some medium heat, and then we're going to put this processed vegetable mix into the pan and try to soften them up a little bit so we can extract some moisture and some flavor and come together. And we're also going to flavor that up with just a little bit of ketchup and some Dijon mustard and some, here we go, Worcestershire sauce. How'd I do? Let me know in the comment section. And that's some Better Than Bouillon beef flavor paste. I love the stuff from Better Than Bouillon. It just feels like cheating when cooking. So you can see how much moisture is starting to be released by the onions, the peppers. I didn't really add much in there, and I'm just seasoning it with some salt and some pepper. And we're going to mix this around, and now this like mushy flavor paste is going to be the paste that's going to add some flavor and some moisture. So now we're going to take some ground pork and some ground beef with some panko seasoned breadcrumbs and a couple of eggs. I'm going to put in a little chopped parsley. And this is some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. If you've seen any of my videos, you can see that I use this a lot. I'll throw a link to the recipe video in the description. And here's some smoked paprika for some color and some smokiness. This is an Italian seasoning that I've been using from Spiceology. This is the pizza seasoning, so it's just a really nice Italian seasoning that I've been really digging lately. So now we're going to take that cook flavor paste mixture and we're going to put that inside there, and now we're going to start working our meatloaf by hand. And now I'm going to keep mixing this by hand, and I'm being sure to be really efficient because I don't want to over mix it. And once that's fully mixed, we're going to set that aside. And now I'm going to take this loaf pan and I'm going to line it with parchment paper. Sometimes these loaf pans come with like a little metal thing that you put in the inside. I always find that this trick of just taking some parchment paper, cutting it the same width, and just lining it in there and folding it up, this works way better. And even though parchment paper is non-stick, I'm just going to give this a light spray with some olive oil, and now we're going to start packing the meat in. And we're going to do it one layer at a time, making sure that we're getting the edges and making sure that they're packed with meat and there's just as little holes as possible. And remember, this meat is going to shrink back a little bit, so you want to go all the way up to the top or as much as possible. So now we're going to put this meatloaf in our preheated 375-degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes, and that's just going to be enough time to get that initial cook on the meatloaf while we make our glaze. Classic meatloaf's got a ketchup glaze, so we're going to start with that ketchup base, and then we're going to put a splash of some low-sodium soy sauce in there for some umami flavor. Couple of drops of some white wine vinegar for some acidity, and we're going to put some brown sugar for some sweetness. That's going to caramelize really nicely on the top. And here comes some more of that Chef Ange base seasoning. This stuff's really useful. I would definitely make some if I were you. Now we're just going to whisk this until the brown sugar and that spice mixture mixes really nicely with the ketchup. So after about 45 minutes, this is pretty solid now, and now it's a perfect time to brush on our glaze and send this back in the oven. So I'm putting a nice coating on the outside, trying to cover all the top of the meat with my brush and making sure that it's nice and neat, because whatever glaze is going to be on there, that's what you're going to pull out of the oven. When that's going to go back in the oven for another 20 to 25 minutes until that glaze is set. And then voila, we have a meatloaf. So now we're going to let this rest for about 10 minutes before we attempt to take it out of the pan. Sometimes messing with it a little too soon is what gets people into trouble and why it breaks on them. So I'm just going to grab the outside of that parchment paper. I'm going to pull straight up and then just transfer it right over to a plate. I like to put a little piece of paper towel on the plate so that any drippings that go off can just go right onto there. And once this transfers over, I'm going to take a really sharp knife here. I'm using a sharp bread knife, and I'm just taking my time to cut all the pieces. There's no way you're going to cut these pieces and then transfer them over to the serving platter. So I like to cut them just right on the serving platter and just really take your time with it. And now we're going to sprinkle a little chopped pressed parsley on top for a little pop of color. And green stuff always just makes stuff look so fresh and so good. And now how amazing does this meatloaf look? I hope by watching this video, we were able to take some meatloaf haters and have them run it back with meatloafing. Just give it another chance.
I am super excited to try this. This smells absolutely amazing. It came out perfect. It's sliced up really nice. The glaze looks fantastic. Let's give it a shot and let's see how we did. So the king piece for meatloaf is definitely the end piece. So let's grab this end piece right here. You can see like the glaze is absolutely perfect. This meat, super duper moist. I mean, I hope that the camera's capturing that. Like when I push that fork in there, you can see the moisture coming off of that. So let's get this nice end piece right here. I mean, this piece has the glaze on it. Again, this message is for all the meatloaf haters out there. This is delicious. This is so good. And if this was being served for dinner, you should be so excited. Oh man. And you know, meatloaf is so good now when it's fresh, and it's even better the next day. After you slice it, make some meatloaf sandwiches. Oh man. Wow. One more bite. Well, I'm Chef Ange. This is my meatloaf. Let me know in the comments section how yours comes out. If you haven't already, click like on this video if you did like the video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.